Hello, everybody. Today on Is It Fascist, we're going to go into full schizo posting mode and we're going to take a look at Barbie Land from Barbie the movie and try to determine if it's fascist. Now, I've been wanting to do this one ever since I saw the movie and the girl in it calls Barbie a fascist. And like, well, hold on there. Is that just a pejorative or is there actually something behind it? Aside from that, I think this is one of the great political issues of our time. Because if you're on the distant right or a third positionist or something, and you're looking for a modern example of what fascism could look like, or what like postmodern fascism would look like, Barbie Land might serve as the model that we can, pun intended, that we can use to build a new revolutionary, reactionary modernist society. So that being said, let's get into it. So we don't know a ton about Barbie Land from the movie. We know that it was created by Mattel. And I'm not sure if it's like some kind of Evola, like if Barbie Land has always existed, like Hyperborea or like the Platonic realm or something like that, and Mattel was able to open a portal to this realm and pull Barbie through it, or if it's Barbie Land is something that was generated through the collective unconscious. It may even be that Barbie is a Buddha, a Pure Land Buddha who has created a pocket of infinite karma in which women reincarnate into, and they go through a purification process before becoming Buddhas themselves and going to our world to try to help women seek salvation. I don't really know. I'm just asking the questions, but it appears that it was set up as some sort of idealized state. Now, how the society actually functions is it appears that there is a president, there is a Congress. I'm not sure if there's political parties, although we're going to assume that there are just for the sake of this video. And society has has two social classes. One is held by women who have citizenship and the right to vote and basic human rights. The other one is for men, Kens, who are subhuman, cannot vote, have no rights whatsoever, and exist solely to be slaves to Barbie. And within this, it appears that there's some sort of planned or state economy wherein all the basic necessities of life are just provided to Barbie. How that this comes about, if it's just created by the collective unconsciousness of humanity. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe like Barbie Land is the idea of evil, and the Barbies are like the God Hand or something. It could be true. But I like to think that the Kens make up a slave caste and they are producing all the food and goods behind the scenes. The lucky Kens are like the better looking Kens are the ones who get to be the slaves to the Barbies. Whereas the worst looking Kens or the Kens who got mangled or whatever are the underclass of Morlocks who work in the background and produce all the food and stuff. Regardless, it appears to have some sort of planned economy. And the Barbies spend all day just kind of partying and eating and hanging out at the beach, whereas the Kens just simp for them constantly. And that's about all we know, and we'll be going through the rest of this and just making stuff up as we go along. So, the first characteristic of fascism, an ideologically syncretic mixture of reactionary conservative and revolutionary progressive ideas. Now, this is the issue whenever we try to define this, because while there's, in our world at least, there's a lot of similarity between conservative societies in terms of things like gender roles, hierarchy, family structure, even just how crime is treated, like the death penalty, stuff like that. And you can see this kind of develop in parallel over a lot of unrelated societies. In fiction, it develops in a very kind of ahistorical way. So, what is traditional in one society may not be traditional in another society. And this is something we see in Japan, where the far right supports gay marriage because they view homophobia as being a Western imposition, whereas traditional Japanese society supports gay sex. And you have stuff like that throughout the world. Now, with regards to Barbie Land, feminism, especially radical feminism, appears to be the default. It's traditional. It's the way the society was set up specifically, and it's been that way for all time. Combined with this, we also have significant technological development in the form of space Barbie, technologist Barbie. So it appears to be a combination of the two, wherein you have a traditional ruling class who maintains the traditions from the founding. And we can even see this at the end of the movie, where they restore the Constitution to how it was prior to Ken's uprising and maintain the conservative status quo, while also combining things like modern technology, post industrial, post scarcity economics, and other things. So Barbie Land is going to get a point here. Identitarianism with a clearly defined in-group and out-group, cultural, religious, ethnic, or racial. In this case, it is gender-based, wherein human beings are, if you're a Barbie, if you're a female, or whatever that guy's name is, then you're a human. If you're a Ken, then you are not a human and you have no rights. And this is an absolute barrier. And more so than that, any attempt to change the barrier is met with totalitarian repression. As we saw in the movie, when Ken came back and convinced Barbie to switch to patriarchy and everyone freely chose it, the state, or what remained of the state, the government in exile, responded with police state tactics, kidnapping the various Barbies, brainwashing them, and forcing them to apply to this ideology. So I would say, yes, the Barbie Land is an ethno state for women. It's because there's black Barbies and white Barbies and Asian Barbies and Hispanic Barbies. So they've redefined gender to be an ethnicity, and Barbie Land is an ethno state, as it were. A revanchist, romantic, nationalist desire to restore the nation to its former glory or avenge itself against a historical foe. Now, this one is debatable. I think you could argue that it develops this over time. It does have this worldview that's kind of ahistorical, that society was like amazing, and then patriarchy was introduced, and then women were put down. And it has this idealized view of a world in which women rule everything, and it's kind of this whimsical that everything's just going to be better on that. And there is a desire to avenge themselves against men, to create a world in which women are supreme in the same way that men are supreme in our world. So I would say that, yes, you do have this revanchist desire to destroy patriarchy, but you also have this romantic nationalism, this idealized version of the world in which women function as their own ethnic group and are able to maintain their rule. Okay, a belief in the supremacy of the party or state. Now, we don't really know if there is a state within Barbie Land. There is a president and there is a Congress. It also seems that things like democracy don't exist. It is an oligarchy. Any attempt to kind of break from the norm is met with repression by a secret police force. There's very rigid control of the media, thought control, that sort of thing. Now, while we do not see a party other than Barbie's house party, we could say that perhaps Barbie's house party, by its nature of excluding Ken and being where they plan their various forms of femdom, can be seen as a party. So we have the Barbie house party. We have a state that, like I said before, employs a secret police force and actively crushes any attempt to change the status quo. So while it's not a state in a traditional sense, I think we can argue that it is a postmodern state. Because even if it's not called a state, if it quacks like a state, if it oinks like a state, then it's a state. So we're going to give them a point here as well. A conception of an idealized new man. Or in this case, a conception of an idealized new woman, as it were. And I think they get a point here as well, because the whole idea is Barbie's supposed to represent this aspiration for women. It's supposed to be oh, you don't have to just be a housewife or be boring or whatever. You can be this fabulous, beautiful girl. You can be an astronaut. You can be whatever you want to be just because you're a woman. And Barbie gives is this, like I said, aspirational thing that women can attempt to obtain. It's an idealization, not just of physical appearance, but of attainment. And anyone who deviates from that, like you have the weird Barbie who they banish to like the corners of the outlook. Anyone who goes against that vision and fails to uphold the highest standards of the idealized new woman is exiled. So I think they're going to get a point here as well. A foreign policy that places national self interest above ideology or morality. This is always a difficult one because in some fictional, so in our world, and in something like maybe Attack on Titan, there are multiple different state actors who have competing interests. And there is something at least resembling a traditional international system. And a lot of fictional things, there's not really international relations as we understand it, as there's only one state or it's in a parallel dimension or something, and it doesn't interact with the real world per se. And so it's kind of hard to kind of judge this, and I have to kind of dive a bit deep. Now, the what we do see in the film once again is we have all this rhetoric about equality and liberation and feminism and progressivism and stuff like that. But when the time comes to implement any of this, it's immediately tossed aside in favor of maintaining the interests of the ruling class. There is a rejection of attempting to spread the feminist influences of Barbie Land directly to the real world. Like the Barbies don't decide to invade the real world or otherwise send people through to promote feminism there in an attempt to seek ideological continuity with their fellow women. So it does seem like it's this kind of isolationist hermit kingdom, as it were, that's determined in preserving the interests of its totalitarian ruling class, as opposed to spreading the revolution further. It's feminism in one country, as it were. And so I think Barbie Land gets a point here as well. An indifference to or marginalization of economics. I don't think economics is discussed at any point in this movie, other than just that women are paid less than men. Barbie Land very obviously works on some kind of post-scarcity economy. It could be like I said earlier in this video, where the Kens work as some sort of slave force, the less attractive Kens, who produce everything that the Barbies consume. But beyond that, it appears that technological innovation or magic has led it to the point where Barbie can just eat air and function that way. But there doesn't even appear to be money in Barbie Land. When they go to the real world, they don't understand the concept of money. It doesn't make any sense to them. Ken doesn't have any real skills. His job is beach. And so it is a post economic world. It is the communist dream. And so yes, there is truly a difference to or marginalization of economics in Barbie Land. A masculine approach to problem solving focusing on decisive action. Now, this one is difficult because on one hand, they do immediately attempt to destroy any rivalry to the system, but they are women. And like I said, you have the widespread acceptance of patriarchy, which is immediately destroyed by the secret police of Barbie Land. And they also come up with the big op in order to make the Kens fight each other and deal with things and restore the ruling class of Barbie Land. It's hard to know because we don't really have a definitive answer to this. As the conflict, there's not really enough conflicts presented within the movie. However, due to the state rapidly acting to counteract any attempted infiltration, I'm going to give them half a point here. Encouragement of mass political action, often in the form of a political party or other organization. So, once again, this is difficult because we don't know if political parties exist in Barbie Land beyond Barbie's pajama party. if we're gonna say like Barbie's pajama party is a political party that all Barbies have to take part in, you could make the argument that it is a form of mass participation. Also, all Barbies are encouraged to take part in the promotion of the Barbie Land ideology to provide an example to women, and to that they have to personally participate in the totalitarian structure of society. They have to dress a certain way, they have to look a certain way, they have to act a certain way, they have to uphold certain methods of behavior. They have to uphold the new man, as it were, or the new woman, I should say. So while it is not exactly because we don't really see a party beyond Barbie's pajama party, it is direct participation in the totalitarian structure is required by all the Barbies, and so they're going to get a point here. Vanguardism, or the belief in an elite inner group to safeguard the new order / revolution. I mean, we have multiple ones. We have the inner ruling council. Apparently, there's a Supreme Court, and there is a government that half the population isn't allowed to vote for. We also have the Mattel Board of Executives, who can be seen as another vanguard organization. And when things start to change in society, there is a deep state that comes to life in order to preserve the status quo and to prevent the ideological purity of the revolution from being changed. So I'm going to have to say that, yeah, it does have a very strong vanguardist character to the Barbie Land state. And an often charismatic leader who wields absolute or near absolute power over the state or movement. We don't really have that, per se, within Barbie Land. It's more of kind of like a Chinese, or at least a post-Mao, pre-Xi Jinping, where it's kind of an oligarchy in which power rotates between a small group of inner members of the party. So I would say that there's no evidence really that Barbie Land operates as an autocracy, even if it is a totalitarian state. So they get a 0 here. Sublimation of the individual and individual rights to the interests of the group, state, or party. I think they definitely get a point here, as Barbie Land is half, or if we're going to go with birth trends in our world, women are a majority in our world, but people don't, so more men are born than women in our world, but men die at a higher rate and have a lower life expectancy. So the population, particularly in countries with lower birth rates, tends to be majority male. However, people don't die of old age in Barbie Land, but I don't think a traditional birth structure exists. So yeah, I kind of have to scratch my head at this one and go, I don't really know. If men are majority or not. But truly, like, once again, everyone has to 100% conform to the standards set up by the ideology of the new woman and the revolutionary feminism that dominates Barbie Land. And the interests of people who are not part of the ruling class are completely sidelined. So they do definitely get a point here. And with that, let's tally this up. And in a surprising upset, Barbie Land gets 10.5 out of 12. And even regardless of whether we're going to round it up or round it down, Barbie Land is fascist. It outdoes other things we've done in this series, like MAGA, like just a number of other things. Barbie Land is one of the highest scoring things we have ever had on this show. I think it's the highest scoring other than the New Order. It's higher than Maoism. It's higher than, let me just look this up. I think Terran Federation was borderline. Fire Nation, yeah, it's one of the highest that we've ever seen with regards to this. So I think we can 100% objectively determine that Barbie Land is a fascist state. And I think it provides a model for modern third positionists, maybe eco-fascists, maybe integralists, maybe something else alt-right, as to the kind of new society that we can build. So once again, if people like the series, give this a like, post a comment, subscribe, share on the various social media platforms, and more exciting and fascinating content to come.